United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mr. Bonneberger, can you please do the roll call?
Yes. Mr. Andrews.
Here.
Mrs. Baxter. Mr. Detmore.
Here.
Mr. Eichfeld.
Here.
Mr. Carabin. Mrs. Magnato.
Here.
Mrs. Miller. Mr. Welsh. Here. Board President, Dr. Shameen Pakal.
Present.
All present.
Thank you. May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions, comments? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The agenda is approved. We had an executive session for the purpose of the superintendent and the district's goals, both on January 14th and January 28th. May I have a motion for the minutes for January 14, 2020?
Second.
Any comments, questions? All those who are in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The minutes are approved. We don't have any recognition. The presentation by the high school student representative.
Hi, everyone. I'm Avia Weber. I'm a sophomore, 10th grade here at Saucon. I'm very involved with all the clubs and sports, so I'm going to be giving a nice report today. So, starting with academics, for our library, we had the Poetry Out Loud competition, which is an oral interpretation and recitation contest sponsored by the Poetry Foundation and the National Endowment for the Arts. Students choose poems to memorize and perform, and then the winners of the school competitions go on to compete at the regional level, state level, and then the national level, which is in Washington, D.C. in April, which is also National Poetry Month. Scholarships are awarded to the state and national winners, and this year, Shanti Sajnani, Kira Josephsberg, and Mason Warnke participated in the annual Saucon Valley High School Poetry Out Loud competition, which was held January 9th in the library. The winner this year was Shanti Sajnani, and she represented us at the regional competition at the Allentown Art Museum on January 16th. She was amazing, by the way. Shanti competed against students from 10 other schools and performed the poems Meeting at Night by Robert Browning, Awakening in New York by Maya Angelou, and Fairy Tale Logic by A.E. Stallings. She did a fantastic job, as I said before, and she's looking forward to next year. Moving along, second semester course started on Monday after the last week of final exams. Tuesday, the medical and engineering program from Babbitt spoke to students interested in taking these in the VOTEC school. Thursday, NCC assembly to inform students about the application process and college life in general. Spring open house will be on Thursday, February 13th from 6:30 to 8:30. And Respect My Red assembly will be on February 6th for all the 11th and 12th graders. Are there any questions on academics? Awesome. Okay, no? Okay, moving along. Okay, so for sports, wrestling will move to the District 11 Championship Tournament later this week, attempting to win their 5th straight District 11 championship. Wow, that's cool. Talitha Diggs ran 38.32 in the 300-meter dash at the Ocean Breeze Freedom Games. Her time is now the best 300-meter dash time this year among high school girls in the U.S. Are there any other questions about sports? Okay. For our clubs, the Mental Health Awareness Club is sponsoring a mental health awareness assembly, which is being provided by NAMI Lehigh Valley, which is the National Alliance on Mental Illness, and that will be for all grade levels on February 28th. For the robotics team, they just participated in their first competition in which they were able to learn the requirements of the event to build upon for their next competition in Emmaus. Scholastic Scrimmage has a competition on Saturday, February 1st at the Phillipsburg High School, and Debate will be heading to Catasauqua on February 6th for their next competition. And National Honor Society will be holding a blood drive on Tuesday, February 12th in the high school LGI. Eligible students and teachers will be donating blood to give the gift of life. Are there any final questions at all about anything? Nope. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Moving on, the superintendent's report, Dr. Butler.
Thank you, Dr. Poxon. Directors, as you may be aware, we have placed significant importance in giving the utmost consideration to improving our efforts in the area of school safety and security the past 2 years. Last year, all staff members were trained in the ALICE safety strategies. We have also established strong relationships with outside agencies to assist our students and families in enhancing mental health services district-wide. We continue to maintain an outstanding relationship with the Lower Saucon Police Department. They provide routine visibility and quick response time to all buildings. We used funding last year from the state authorized safety grant to install new cameras throughout the district. We now have a state-of-the-art surveillance system, providing us with clarity in pictures and wide-angle views. We have also trained our faculty in threat assessment and behavior analysis. Furthermore, we implemented a threat assessment team last year. The team is working in conjunction with Paladine and Dr. Diana Sorrentino this year. Our buildings have updated their crisis response teams and are continuously reviewing preparedness efforts. Lastly, we are in the process of developing an all hazards plan. Ultimately, this plan will help us be prepared for any emergency that may occur. As we move forward, we have been and will continue to direct equal attention to school climate and culture. In that regard, we are providing further training for our staff in anti-harassment and anti-bias training. We're also refining our procedures in the area of handling bullying and harassment reports. Furthermore, I am in the process of establishing a task force that will be addressing climate and culture strategies moving forward to address such behaviors as bullying. Thank you, Dr. Pogba.
Questions? Okay, moving on. Courtesy of the floor to the visitors on the agenda items only. I see none. May I have a motion for the bills?
Second.
Any comments, questions? All those who are in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion carries. Next, we have the treasurer's report. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Any questions, comments? All those who are in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion carries. Under education, we have the report for the Academic and Personnel Committee meeting that is attached to the agenda, and that's the only item. Under personnel, we have a retirement, a long-term substitute, stipend for additional summer work duties, mentor, addition to the substitute list. May I have a motion for items number 1 through 5?
Second.
Any comments, questions? All those who are in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the motion's carried.
Excuse me, sir. There was originally earlier on the agenda under education, the program of studies. I didn't see that it was pulled till just now. I thought it was agreed it was going ahead.
Thank you, Ms. Miller. We're just slowing down the process just a couple of weeks to work out details regarding one of the new courses in particular. And we expect that to be done efficiently in the next couple of weeks, and we'll bring that forward at the next meeting.
Dr. Paxad, I'd just like to point out, we did put the Academic and Personnel Committee meeting report onto this agenda. We did not approve it, and I want to note that this are not the minutes, nor have they been approved by this board, because I think there's some inaccuracies in this report.
So noted. Yeah. So these are the point is that the minutes of the meeting have not been approved by the committee and are included here, and they would be amended if
Great.
there is a revision. Item number 6 is conference travel request. Do I have a motion for that?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions, comments?
Yes. So I would like to just point out to the board that under the FBLA, Future Business Leaders of America, this is the first year that transportation amount of $2,300 is being included. I did question that, and I'm asking, I was told that this was placed into the budget. This does not necessarily match the procedures we have put in place regarding transporting of students. And we send many students to Hershey, so we have to be very careful about opening up the line of charter buses to Hershey. And going forward, I would make the request for the budget that anytime we have an item that's new, that's more than $1,000, the board should be apprised of that information ahead of time.
Okay, thank you. Would you like to take anything out of the list? of the
No,
booking, or should
I did ask this question, but I'm just going to ask it again. So the lodging of $265 under each person, does that represent this one night's lodging? Or does that represent 2 nights lodging? Right. So if they shared rooms, there's only one listing of lodging, that's just for one night then? Because it's listed under everybody. Okay,
The-
yes.
Ms. Baxter, if I may add, the 265, excuse me, I'm sorry, is a divided amount per person that represents the lodging, the security charges that are mandatory through FBLA and every hotel that's being used in Hershey. That is a mandatory expense that the FBLA Association imposes upon the district. It also includes shuttling students back and forth from all of the hotels in the Hershey area, because we don't keep buses down there, obviously. Shuttling students back and forth from their hotel to the site of the competition, which is the Hershey Lodge.
I'm personally in favor of using our own school buses to go out to Hershey rather than hiring a charter bus. So I will be voting no for this.
So do you want to vote on that item alone, or
Sure.
you're comfortable with voting no on the
I
entire
can,
conference?
it doesn't matter, either one.
Susan, is it possible to use our buses?
We've always done it every other year. We've always used charter buses.
We've always used charter or our
I
own.
mean, sorry, we've always used our own.
Doesn't this happen during school days?
May I comment on the use of the school buses versus charter? We have used school buses, thank you, Ms. Baxter, the 2 previous years I've been in the district. It was reported to me and suggested that we do not use school buses this year because the only buses in the district that would have the undercarriage capacity to carry all of the luggage, if you will, that the students have to take on this particular trip, which includes not only casual clothing, but dress clothing for their competition. Our older buses in the district are the only buses who capable of carrying that kind of luggage, if you will. Last year, we took buses. We had an older bus. Now, it could be that last year was an anomaly, but we had a bus breakdown. On the way back, we had students stranded or held up as a result of waiting for another bus to come pick them up. It was a bit of a difficult situation that caused us to pause and look at our decision about taking school buses 90 miles one way and using our older buses and having those buses full with students. So that, in looking at that and my conversation with Ms. Gary, with Mr. McCabe, and with Mr. Bonenberger, we felt for the safety of students and all the other factors I just mentioned that we should move to the charter bus option. Ms. Baxter, I appreciate your mention of the $1,000 informing the board. I like your recommendation. I appreciate that.
Can I just add, the other problem is, it is during the school day. We don't have enough drivers to drive currently. So to take the drivers out there, I'm short-staffed. I've got mechanics driving, I've got the secretaries driving, I've got custodians driving. I can't take those buses out and use our drivers because we don't have the drivers to do that at this time. Plus also during that time, there will be a lot of sport events going on. So if I take those buses, I won't be able to transport for the sporting at that point. So that's the other considerations for this.
Are we looking for more bus drivers?
We're always looking for more bus drivers. We're constantly looking for bus drivers, but so is everybody at this point.
Dr. Paxson, if I will, I just want to express my feelings about Ms. Baxter's comments. I would love to take school buses. I wish we could. If it wasn't for the depletion of the fleet and our newer buses being able to have that undercarriage storage, I would be most pleased to use the school bus option.
Is it possible to buy new buses that have undercarriage storage?
There is, but the
Yeah.
problem with the undercarriage one, especially when you have a lot of snow and the problems, they just get damaged very easily because as they make the turns, you got the lower clearance and the way they plow and everything else, they wind up getting all banged up, damaged, and they're half the time ruined anyway and to replace them. And they're a lot more expensive with those also.
Okay, any other questions, comments? So all those who are in favor of the conference travel request, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? You vote no? Okay. Mr. Bonemaker, did you note the nay votes? Okay, the motion carries. Moving on to the facilities, we have nothing. Finance, can you please tell us where we are on the budget cycle, Mr. Bonemaker?
Currently working on it. We had started meeting with each one of the building levels, have come to the finance committee to start presenting theirs. My goal is to get to the finance committee, the first next meeting we have, at least a draft of what the budget looks like, so we can start having conversations of that and continue the conversations with each one of the building levels as what's entering into the budget.
On the agenda, we have the Finance Committee meeting report from January 22nd. Again, the same stipulation that it hasn't been approved by the committee yet. Community outreach, Saucon Valley Partnership, Mr. Karaman.
I have nothing at this time.
Bethlehem Area Votech.
Excuse me, just, did you report on the demographics already?
Yes.
Okay. Is that going to be presented at A&P? Are we going to discuss that at all?
Is that supposed to go to AMP yet?
I mean, it's up to
Demographics
you.
from them.
I don't know. There was a report, written report that was shared. There was nothing more, and I wasn't sure whether anyone is ready to present the report, but I wasn't there at the meeting.
Well, originally we got wanted the demographics to relate it to the budgeting process.
Right.
That's as far as I know what was requested of it.
So this is something maybe, Dr. Butler, I mean, you should look at it to see whether it complies with other information that we have from the PDE, and if there is anything that we need to do differently as a result of that. I think it's a good idea.
She is available if we wanted to have her call in at an A&P meeting if you had questions, and I just didn't know what occurred at the,
That's a good idea.
it originally was supposed to go on A&P and I never saw it on the agenda, so I didn't know what happened. Thank you.
Bethlehem Area Votech, Mr. Detmar, Mr. Reichfeld.
Nothing really. I mean, we had our meeting earlier in the month.
Yeah,
We reported.
Our next meeting is coming up soon, so.
I didn't hear the results of the Super Bowl. They had the,
Oh, I think I saw in the paper we won.
oh, did we again?
Check one, yeah.
All right. So the Votech won. I was trying to look it up on my cell phone as I was sitting here because I remembered it. So.
For anyone that doesn't know, the Super Bowl is a soup competition that invites restaurants in the valley to compete for the favor of the people that attend. And our VOTEC won last year and then again this year.
Take with the IU, Ms. Miller.
The two most recent reports are here, but I mostly wanted to point out to you that the Excellent Education Awards dinner, the annual dinner is back up. You have your invitation. I handed it out to you. Please make sure you RSVP if you're going to be attending, so they are able to schedule. I'll be going representing in that, just so people might know, that's where the National Merit Scholars and semifinalists receive awards, as well as any teachers that submitted for Education Excellence Awards for their initiatives for the past year.
Great, thanks. How about PSBA, Ms. Miller?
The governor's budget's going to be introduced on February 4th, and you'll be finding information available on that.
Thanks. Chamber, Mr. Carabin. The foundation, Ms. McNaughton.
The only thing that I have to report for the foundation is that we have a date for the March Madness fundraiser. I think it's going to be April 3rd at Steel Club again. So look for more information coming out about that. It's always fun.
NCC, Ms.
New theme
Baxter.
this year, though.
What's that?
New theme this year, murder mystery.
Oh, okay, news to me. That's great. So I don't have to sell raffles anymore. Is that what you're telling me?
No, don't get your hopes up on that.
Okay.
NCC, Ms. Baxter.
Nothing new.
And new business or old business? I see none. The citizens' inquiry and comments, please state your name and address.
Jennifer Schmel, 1390 New Jersey Avenue. So good evening. It's nice to see you guys have a little bit more life than last week or 2 weeks ago. I'm back. Probably some of you are not happy to see me. But as I mentioned, I'm not going anywhere until a full-time SRO for at least 2 of our schools goes into this agenda and is approved. Last meeting, it was not an accident that I came up and gave my statement during the old business portion of the agenda. As far as I'm concerned, the discussion of an SRO should be old business. And this is just another example of Saucon Valley dragging their feet on something that makes perfect sense and that everyone else is already doing. After my statement at the last meeting, there were absolutely no comments from anyone on this board. Many of your postures were dismissive and downright disrespectful. There were 3 of you who approached me post-meeting, of which I heard back from all of you, so thank you. I was hoping that during tonight's meeting, there would be some additional feedback or some items on the agenda. Craig, I'm happy that you were able to, put together some task force and some, notes about things that you've done. Those are great to hear, but I don't think that that's enough. And I think a lot of the people sitting behind me also agree. Last Thursday, Craig did call me to ask if I had any interest in participating in a bullying task force that he was building. And while I commend him for reaching out and taking a step towards building a strategy, I said I would participate because clearly you guys need the help. But I was very clear that this task force does not negate the need for a full-time SRO, which Craig confirmed he understood. In fact, once the proper strategy is put into place, an SRO is absolutely critical in executing the strategy effectively. Also, since the last meeting, Saucon Source posted another article summarizing my statements to this board and the need for an SRO. That article also ignited multiple parents and taxpayers to reach out to me, telling me their story, sharing their thoughts, and commending me for coming in and speaking up, because there's so many out there that feel the same way. I even had a police officer outside the district reach out to tell me that they would love to work in our schools as a full-time SRO. And has anyone asked the faculty? They're the best resource that you have to evaluate needs within our schools, but no one ever asked for their input or feedback. But from what I understand, they came to you, Craig, with a recommendation for an SRO. Instead, the administration dictates down to the faculty, which is completely backwards, particularly when it comes to the needs of our children and evaluating new initiatives. It's pretty telling when your own faculty members, as well as the Lower Saucon Police Association, shares the Saucon Source article about this district needing an SRO. In fact, the article was shared 27 times. If you'll remember, during the last meeting, I expressed the need for an SRO from my experience with bullying and problematic childhood behaviors and home dynamics. But then I learned that bullying has hit close to home with some of you sitting on this very board. In fact, instead of addressing the issues here at Saucon, which you're in a prime position to do, one of the board members' children that was bullied was moved out of the district. I can't be the only one that thinks that this is just crazy. And just because they personally chose to run from the problem doesn't mean that this community is going to let you do the same disservice to our children. And let me ask this question. Craig, when those 2 10-year-olds who threatened to shoot 2 other students were let back into the middle school after their 14-day vacation, Were they escorted to class by a police officer? Did anyone check their book bags to make sure that there were no weapons in them? If you don't know the answer, I can tell you the answer. It's no to both. Another disgrace to the safety of our children and teachers. So are we ready to talk about a full-time SRO yet? Let's read through some of the other experiences that other public schools have had since employing a full-time SRO. One comment was, I teach in Easton, and all of our buildings have one. He's very visible throughout the day and a great addition to our staff. Another one, there were 2 schools without a resource officer in place in the Lehigh Valley, one being Saucon and one being my school. We hired a resource officer, and he started the school year with us. It makes a difference. Our school resource officer has created positive connections with the students in just 5 months being on board. We are truly grateful for his support and dedication. Another comment, I work in a school district with excellent school resource officers. If Saucon believes they are safe because the police station is close when they do not realize how fast something can go wrong, unfortunately, we live in a very unpredictable world. Our school resource officers are great. They have worked hard to form a relationship with the students, and the students look up to them. Another example, Quakertown has 2. The SRO at the middle school is a great person and is respected by the community. I know I feel better that they are in place in our schools. Another comment, I don't know the current one, but the previous one was awesome with the kids. To me, it is good for the kids to see police are normal people. While he makes sure things are safe, the kids also get to know him on a personal level. The one year the officer came to one of the girls' away basketball games just because he was not on duty. Another comment, well, my kid will never go to Saucon. Another comment, by not hiring an SRO, it's as though you're saying we have no problems here. Nothing bad happens or will happen here. If there's anything we've learned over the past several years, it's that bad things happen everywhere. Shouldn't we be proactive instead of reactive? Don't your students and staff deserve it? In a time where most school districts have at least one SRO, you're choosing not to hire any? Really disappointed, Saucon Valley. Another comment, 100% supportive of any of the Lower Saucon Township Police Department officers to be hired as a resource officer in Saucon Valley School District. It's needed, and any of them would be an asset. Bullying and challenging home dynamics are not the only reason our district needs an SRO. I have quite a few friends who work in part-time positions at the schools. One of them shared with me her concern as she worked out one morning in the facility above the high school gym. Those that have been in that room understand that you can look down into the gym. During one early morning workout, this employee noticed that several students open the gym doors to cool off during their workouts. The door is left open, and the delayed closure leaves it susceptible to anyone from the outside to come in. This employee also has witnessed several times the lunchroom door at the high school being propped open as deliveries are made. As the delivery man is moving goods to and from the truck, anyone could walk through those doors and into the lunchroom where children and staff are congregated. I have personally seen the gym doors open during gym class at the high school during the late spring when it's warm outside. And what about the gym classes that are held outside when the weather is fair? There's no protection for those students and teachers, and anyone could approach them in one of the fields surrounding the school. Without question, an SRO would be absolutely effective in every one of these safety examples. At least 2 full-time SROs need to be added to this board's agenda, and then they need to be approved. It's time to understand the needs and dynamics of the district and reorganize to meet those needs. This is what every good business does. They reorganize based on customer focus or needs, and they realize when the landscape changes. I don't think we've realized that the landscape has changed here. I provided some ideas on how to do that, including repurposing the antiquated guidance counselor role if the board refuses to make an additional investment, despite there being money in the budget to make that investment. And lastly, it was very interesting to see the agenda of the last meeting and to read through the agenda of preceding meetings. It seems like this board is focused more on managing a lean budget and housekeeping tasks, like approving salary increases for one another, board promotions, and maternity leaves for faculty members, than advancing initiatives that directly improve our children's educational experience and safety, like the program that you referenced, Sandy, at the beginning of the meeting, that still has not moved forward. It's the middle of the school year. It's surprising to me that there is not a major initiative that's being worked on and shared. Nothing was shared during the last meeting. I have to ask, what are you guys doing? When I called in to find out how long I was able to speak during one of these meetings, I was told 5 minutes. No, 3 minutes. Wait, let me check. And ultimately, the policy, there is no limit. Yet, you told the gentleman who presented after me during the last meeting, that he had about 5 minutes. So why don't you guys even know your own policies? The bullying policy is basically non-existent, and there's no social media policy. Again, I have to ask, what are you guys doing? Good thing I have a lot of energy, and I don't get discouraged easily, because I'm adamant about getting this board to approve an SRO. At this point, we are the only school in the Lehigh Valley that doesn't have one, and I'm not the only one that doesn't understand why. I'm not sure if we are arrogant, naive, or just plain ignorant, but I'm determined to keep pushing to find out. That's the end of my spiel. But I have some very pointed questions to ask. And Craig, being that you are the mouthpiece for recommendations for our schools, I'm going to ask these questions directly to you. One, why are you so resistant to hiring 2 full-time resource officers?
You do not need to respond.
I don't think that that's good enough.
You can certainly ask your questions, but again, it's a public comment process. The board certainly has the prerogative after comment is closed to respond if they desire, but public comment is to get comment.
We're waiting for a response.
I believe the board has responded in part by meeting with you directly, the response from Dr. Butler.
No one has met with me directly.
Well, again, this is, ma'am, you'd have to come up here to speak, but if you have a public comment and you can make your comment, but this is, again, not a question and answer process.
So what is the process to get questions answered?
The board and the administration will respond as they determine necessary to the inquiries that are brought forward by the public. You're going to have to come up and make that comment. You can't speak.
So
What
let me
makes
just.
it necessary
May
for
I-
a response?
Can I just interrupt? So I don't want to leave your comments interrupted. If you're done, we can move to the.
No,
next
we're
people.
all in here together. We're here for the same.
No. That's not how it works. One person comes up, identifies who they are, they can make their comment, and then the next
Angela
person comes up.
McFetridge. I live at 1663 Woodfield Drive, Bethlehem, 18015. I've emailed this board many times after many of the safety issues we've had. I can't get a response. I would like to know why we are so against an SRO officer. So if I can understand how it works and we don't need to respond this evening, but how do I get a response of why we are against an SRO officer? I've asked how many of you have children in the Saucon Valley School District? How many of you have done your research? How many of you have worked or been in a public school? I do. I've worked in one for over 15 years. In fact, I've worked at Saucon Valley School District. You have some work to do. Your ALICE training, you're behind the ball. I work in Quakertown. We've been doing ALICE training for years. You have just started. Your training is not adequate, okay? When are we going to get answers and how are we going to get answers? Have you done any research on public safety or intruders that come into the building and what the best survival rate is? I've been trained in that. I've gotten answers from the school board that we don't need an SRO officer because we have a police building 5 minutes away. Well, if you have seen the news, when are children killed? It's in the first 20 to 30 seconds. So and I'm sorry, I didn't know that police just sit at the public police station. So having an SRO officer, sure, could something still happen? Absolutely, but they have a better chance of protecting our kids. And they also have I work in a building where they have an SRO officer, and it's a great thing for the kids. They have built such a relationship with the SRO officer, such respect for the community. It's been such a wonderful thing. So I just want to know, how do we get answers? Because I really want to know why this board is so against having an SRO officer.
Christine Bauer, 982 New York Avenue. I second everything that they're saying. And what Mr. Butler said, that's great that you have cameras and everything up-to-date technology, but there's nothing like somebody being there and responding within seconds, as opposed to a 5-minute ride for the police officers. That's all.
Good evening. My name's Steve Young, 2040 Glenview Drive. Spent 10 years in federal law enforcement, and I think if you're going to ask the teachers to protect the kids, then that's like asking a law enforcement officer to teach. So you better think about that.
Barry Stoneback, 514 Rensheimer Drive, 3 kids in Saucon Valley School District. I am also a teacher at Quakertown High School, and I am currently finishing my 19th year in Quakertown High School. And everything that Ms. Mr. McFetrich just told you is absolutely true. You are well behind the ball on Alice Train. Okay? We are now 28 days into 2020, and there have already been five school shootings, and all of them happened in less than 2 minutes. Nobody can get here in less than 2 minutes. I don't care unless that person's sitting right out front here. Okay? There will be nothing, there will be more school shootings this year. And nothing will change that. Right? I'm here tonight due to the perception, and it's obviously not a perception, that this board is not interested in hiring a resource officer. And I just don't understand that. Every single day, this campus houses 2,408 students approximately, which is 15% of this community. And it's our most precious commodity in this building. If we had a concert, a sporting event with 2,500 people at it, would we hire police? Would we expect police to show up there? Would we have security guards there? Every single public event, private event with that many people at it has security, armed security. Quakertown now has 2 SROs, one at the high school, one at the middle school, and contrary to popular belief, an SRO is not a disciplinarian, does not handcuff students, doesn't remove them from the school unless they're given no other choice. An SRO should be carefully chosen, an individual with an appropriate personality that matches that of the student body. This isn't just a quick decision, but it's one that needs to be made and one that needs to be taken, the appropriate steps. An SRO is proactive rather than reactive. I'll just give you a small sample of what our SRO's responsibilities are in the course of a day, in addition to the hundreds of daily interactions. Number 1, student cyber safety. Number 2, which apparently you do not have a policy for social media.
Oh, yeah.
You're not supposed to respond. If you're going to respond, then great. That's awesome. But then show me that policy.
Sure, I just comment.
No, you're not supposed to respond. Anti-bullying initiative.
With all due respect,
I know, listen, I understand.
this is a prerogative.
But you didn't show these people respect.
We gave them their opportunity to
You
comment.
didn't show these people respect, and now you're going to interrupt me. So
Sir.
This is my time. This is it time.
Let them talk.
Yes, thank you. Drug education, safe driving, texting, drinking, drunk driving simulations. Our SRO has taken students to the hospital that have been in health crisis. Our SRO has coordinated Alice drills and training. Our SRO has conducted school safety risk assessments, which you pay thousands of dollars every 3 years for, which we don't pay anything for. Our SRO provides vaping awareness forums, parent safety forums, self-defense training, safe to say tip response and coordination, K-9 search coordination, coordination of diversion of and coordination of first offender programs. It's just a sampling of the work done by the highly qualified and dedicated SROs in Quakertown. However, a vast majority of an SRO's time is spent forming and maintaining trusting relationships with our children. These relationships help build a solid foundation between the police and the future of our community, and help make the students feel more comfortable with approaching the police when something needs to be reported that could threaten the safety of our students, teachers, and staff. Having a marked car on campus and an armed, trained police officer in our schools should not be a deterrent to anyone except for those that wish to harm our community and harm the kids in our schools. We all know one of your reasons for not hiring an SRO is cost, and I get that. I totally get that. I'm a taxpayer here, and I understand. However, the PA Public School Code has also easily found on the PSBA's website, Act 44 of 2018 expressly sets aside grant money in the amount of $60 million to be used in part to defray costs associated with the training and compensation of school resource officers and school police officers. In addition, there are countless other state and federal grants aimed at improving school safety and security. I heard you talk tonight about the cameras in the buildings. We have an $81 million brand new building, and I can promise you I've not seen one good photo of a student's face from those cameras. You might have some magic cameras if you do. We are here asking you for support. That's all we're asking for. There's money available in the budget, by grant, by cooperation with local law enforcement. Other towns have done it. In fact, every other town has done it. We live in super close proximity to a highly urban area. You have a responsibility. The alternative is to do nothing, which it sounds like that's what you want to do, and hope that everything will be okay, and hope that you will never, ever, ever have to be one of the people sending your worthless thoughts and prayers to the parents of the students that you could choose to help right now. That's it.
The other questions that I have, is there any data or field studies or independent research that has been conducted at Saucon Valley that states that we don't need a resource officer? Your own faculty has asked you guys for a resource officer. Craig, you asked me to join the bullying task force. This task force should be developing a strategy that starts with awareness, moves to reporting, then investigating, and ends in a resolution. The only problem is that you have a major hole in the strategy, which is a resource to go to for reporting. Clearly, the current resources in place are not effective in doing the job. In order for your task force to be effective, you need a resource officer in that role. Your contract could potentially be coming to an end. Do you want your legacy to be the most ineffective bullying policy on record and the only school in the Lehigh Valley without an SRO? Or do you want your legacy to be improving the safety of every child in this district? I think that answer will determine your contract and whether it's extended. It seems pretty clear to me and every other school in the Lehigh Valley, but what is it, Craig, that you need in order to make a recommendation to this board for an SRO?
Hold on, let's make sure that everyone who wants to say something can get a chance. Any other comments from the public?
Public comments closed. And the public comments are closed.
Right. Yeah. Public comments closed. Yeah. Would you like to say anything?
Sure, Dr. Paxad. First of all, parents, community members, as superintendent, I do appreciate your attendance this evening, and I appreciate your comments. What's helpful for me, Jennifer, is to hear the comment, record it, digest it, take it to my administrative team, district administrative team, building administrative team, talk about it, discuss it, then bring forward a recommendation to the board. So for you parents that were asking, what's the process? How do we get answers? Please know it's unrealistic and improper, I think, for you to come to the board, speak passionately, and then get no answers from me as superintendent. I don't plan on doing that. And I think, case in point, Jennifer, is my reaching out to you in the last couple of weeks. So the issue, of course, is not bullying. The issue is resource officer. My two previous districts, I came from districts that had SROs. We had SPOs in Hazleton. Very different community, school police officers. So I do have experience, several years, actually 2 decades of experience with SROs or SPOs. We did hold a meeting last fall that was solely based on information that you're giving in terms of much of which I summarized tonight. The meeting was probably one of our higher attending meetings. We had comments, pros and cons. We still have those comments to refer back to as well. But I do want to let you know in brief that my role as superintendent is to digest what I've heard this evening, work with our administrative team, and one of you said it, I believe, and that is to, if we have opinions or research or feelings that we need to express to board president, vice president, and the entire board, then it's my role to bring that forward. So in terms of process, that's what we're looking at. Ma'am, you had asked about that. Thank you.
Announcements, future meetings,
Question.
February. Sure.
I have some questions basically for the superintendent and any staff that might chime in. But was not last year, we had sat and had a number of meetings with community members, police departments from Hellertown and Lower Saucon Township, and parents, and I don't remember who all was in those meetings. I remember attending some of them. And there were extensive discussions of how to proceed, what to do. And the police, it actually came to conclusion by that group at that given time, and this is an ongoing thing where it could change at any time or change a decision at any time. But my concern is that the township police, I remember having this costing out of what it would cost to hire a township officer or a resource officer and so forth. But I do not recommend any police department recommending that we hire a SRO person immediately. Do you recall that in any way, shape, or form?
Mr. Carabin, I do not recall a recommendation from them at that time. That was
Right.
last year, roughly a year and a half ago.
Right. Another question I have is that we have run this ALICE program and had training for our staff, business manager, office personnel, and so forth. And that is ongoing training?
That's correct. We trained 5 individuals in the district, Mr. Carabin. One of the individuals has left the district, but 4 out of the 5 are still here.
Right.
Mr. Bodenberger is one of the 4, along with some other individuals, and we did some extensive training last year. And Mr. Bodenberger is part of the, forgive me, Dave, I don't recall, but the meetings that you go to monthly, emergency response meetings, and he gets updates there, brings them back to administrative staff as well.
Right. And actually, from them experiences that I had, and I was very involved in reading tremendous amounts of material. In fact, I think I've read did more research on this type of issue than anything else on the board over the course of the years that I've been doing this. And I can understand where SRO comes from, why it's necessary, why some people want it, why some people don't feel. But after all the research I did, I was sort of leaning more towards it's not as effective as you may think it is. It has benefits, it has its pros, but there's other things that are just as important. And I sort of,
No, this is just, I'm gonna.
I'll leave it at that. Never mind. I know it'll just constantly argue. I would suggest one thing though, anybody that is truly seriously concerned about making a difference in this school district should be attending all these committee meetings or meetings he's setting up to address these issues, because that's where the work and the information and all the data that comes to us comes from. And well, take it for what it's worth then.
So, yeah, so. Yeah. Can I?
Right, that's what, okay.
Please, let's just not get into a discussion. Right. So, any other comments from the board? The future meetings, February 11th, February 25th, March 10th. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second.
So be it.